the lack of health care that exists within immigrant, especially at detention facilities, especially in the United States. Before we begin, I'd like to invite you to envision what it's like to be in that condition. Imagine arriving to the facility where all your belongings are taken from you, so you have no form of communication, especially with loved ones or access to the real world. You are locked up like a prisoner, but you did nothing wrong. You have been diagnosed with diabetes and your insulin has been taken away from you. During the time in the facility, your medical needs are neglected until your condition becomes life-threatening, almost to the point of dying. Many of these immigrants await immigration processing and are held in detention centers, where the condition in these facilities are often reported as inhumane. Many of the immigration and homeland security officers neglect the needs of these people because they have trespassed into this country illegally and have created that prejudice upon themselves, causing that they are more prone now to diseases and illnesses because, especially in those conditions, those become especially worse for the detainees. How can we help these detainees and immigrants? By helping and defending health care not just for citizens within the United States, but for all. By improving healthcare access and medical conditions in immigration detention centers can significantly improve the detainees' physical and mental well-being while reducing the long-term trauma in the process. Whether being illegal or not, everyone deserves to be treated equally, especially within medical crisis situationships. There are many issues that reach out, especially when trying to help immigrants obtain healthcare, especially equally to what citizens. But in the situation where they experience to be in these facility centers, what is the pros and cons of What are some of the cons that they develop while being in these facility centers? For one of them, they have a lack of providers, especially medical professionals. Tessa Williams' study in a recent article she developed, when participants were able to identify the types of healthcare professionals, majority, 56%, reported being only seen by a nurse, with a minority being only to see physicians and other medical providers. There's a lack of medical providers within detention centers compared to the overcrowding immigrant population within these facilities. Our only solution here is to continue hiring or accelerate those medical providers within these facilities so these detainees can continue to have access to the detention facilities and be treated when patients are especially in need. With lack of providers, many of these immigrants' conditions go towards a critical level, often left untreated, and many of them to die in or after they are received attention by the detention center. To fix this lack of physicians as well, medical providers, legislators, congressmen, and medical providers need to indicate this issue to give further resources to detention centers also to be able to give medical providers and have proper medical equipment within these centers in case of emergency concerns or any types of issues that can predescend that can also be in medical acceleration situationships. Another issue that is seen within this field is the negligence between Homeland Security officers and immigration officers. There have been many reports, like Fernando Gomez Ruiz, one of the detainees that experienced as well being able to be in a facility like for immigrants. Fernando Ruiz Gomez was diagnosed with diabetes and was repeatedly denied insulin, leading to elevated blood pressure, sugar levels, and also had experienced an ulcer on his foot that was not properly treated. For people who don't know, People who are diagnosed with diabetes constantly need insulin because they are not able to produce insulin in their own bodies. If there's a lack of insulin, they experience extreme fatigues, tiredness, there's a lack of focus, and this can lead to their deterioration of their own body, which also might be the reason of the development of the ulcers. This could have been preventable if it weren't for the negligence and the frustration that we carry against immigrant workforces. So, how can we fix this negligence that Homeland Security and immigration officers have towards these detainees to help not circulate another type of report or incident that happened to Fernando? One way to help is that for Homeland Security and immigration officers to have a less stern regime for the detainees, as they have suffered and should not be place their basic health needs at risk. I should also be held accountable for any consequences for their cruel, avoidant, cold, or malicious acts towards the detainees. On top of this, they all should receive training that emphasizes human treatment and etiquette for the detainees. For even if they might be different than us, they are still human and deserve to have that equal right. Another issue that arises within the facility is the conditions that are within the detention center, which are inhumane, as many of the immigrants live in areas where it's not viable, as it's very dirty, overcrowded, lights are bright, so many of the detainees cannot rest. It is not suitable for anyone, but especially people who are in a sitting where they're of disability, which is pregnant women, children, elderly patients, and people with mental illnesses as well. And many have reported that the food and water quality of the detention center facilities are terrible, which leads to malnutrition and dehydration. And because of this, many of the detainees have left to starve because of that inaccessibility to proper food, which can lead further into sickness, malnutrition, weight loss, and more worse symptoms that can lead into sickness. So how can we help towards this? Public health workers and also public health officials can help secure a healthy and stable environment within these facilities by providing services that should be inspecting the facility for it to be clean, especially in overcrowded areas and in areas where women and areas of more prone to disease are to exist, and for services of food and water should improve, for nobody deserves to eat rotten food or to get food poisoning in an area just because you're different, and especially receive dirty water. There are also people like immigrants that are also within a disability setting, and this could be considered pregnant mothers or many of the other categories that I've mentioned. They should also be able to receive the resources from people in order to achieve what they need. So many, like women, should be able to receive pads or tampons if they have their menstrual cycle. Women, if they are currently at birth or have children and they are breastfeeding, or any type of necessity that they would need or resource in order to accommodate, the facility should provide. A very arising issue that has also occurred because of the quality of the detention centers is the lack of mental health and the trauma that is left behind. As many of the detention centers already lack in mental health professionals, and many of the detainees experience trauma because of these incidents, many of them develop PTSD, depression, and many have attempted suicide as well. So how can we help them? How can we help these detainees stop from preventing this type of trauma or attempt suicide. Detainees should be able to access any type of mental health provider or psychiatrist. And by this, we can help them by doing the same thing as we do by helping to seek medical providers. The reason being, as stated by Decker, Annette M., Zayden, Amy, and many more authors, grossly inadequate mental health care has been cited with an 11-fold increase in the rate of suicide deaths in a detention center over the past decade and extensive use of solitary confinement, despite studies documented increasing mental health harm, including suicidal, resulted from this practice. So as mentioned here, one of the reasons many of the detainees experience suicide is because they're alone. Another issue that can be fixed is that ICE officers can also be more vigilant of detainees of not being alone in order to not attempt suicide and provide them with resources in order for them to be able to talk to any mental health care worker or psychologist in order to improve their mental health while being within the facility, to not attempt an unfortunate death. Although many of the people that I have mentioned right now are of higher level and have power of laws or have higher degrees than what normal average citizens do. But how can they also help as well? By noting them their rights, we are also helping immigrants as well. And one important essential thing is that we should know is that we don't want to deport immigrants, especially those if they have medical needs. For many of the immigrants, they have not even committed crimes. For about 70% of the detainees have no criminal conviction, and their immigration process are civil, not criminal. So they're technically not breaking a criminal law, and they are not criminals. They have attempted or have not followed a law specifically that follows the country's regulation, but it is not something that should be criticized as criminal for. For one of the rules that immigration officers and Homeland Security can keep in mind is from refraining from detaining families and asylum seekers. Refraining from detaining these individuals with serious mental and medical health needs cannot be fully and adequately addressed in detention, because many of these conditions can be harmful more if they're put in detention centers, and whenever possible, release under a humanitarian parole individuals with serious mental health needs or medical health needs. By informing them of their rights, resources, these immigrants can make a difference in the circumstances of these people who feel helpless in such situations where uncertainty and fear can be upon, feel supported and uplifted. Advocate and know and address them their rights. By giving them this red card, they still can have that accessibility and have that right when they're confronted by Homeland Security and ICE. By addressing these concerns to immigrants, they feel less scared to be able to go out and be less scared when they have to encounter a situation very prone to this. In conclusion, healthcare should be for all, advocating for healthcare for all, whether immigrants or not, as many of these only have come to seek a better life. So by advocating to support the medical care conditions within facilities and to address the mental health and healthcare concern can bring a change into the immigrants in detention centers, which can improve their outcomes, reducing their physical and mental traumas. Although immigration policies remains a high debate today, the evidence demonstrates that significant changes are needed to ensure equality and justice in detention centers. Regardless of immigration status, every person deserves access to healthcare, dignity, and respect for all. No one should be treated any different due to the privilege they did or didn't have. Thank you so much.